Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? You're good? All right. So first of all, let's congratulate each other. We are on time. Yay! The slide this morning gives you just the tiniest little preview into something that we are going to do as our message today. And the fabulous Phyllis Belcher has been planning this for quite a long time. You will also get to enjoy scrapbooks when you go over to Friendship Hall for the potluck. Even if you didn't bring anything, please go to the potluck. We love to feed people here. It's an extension of our caring for one another. So let's make sure we do this. Welcome. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. Our opening song is "This Is the Day," and it's on page 84. We're doing verse 1. Stand if you would like, but you certainly don't have to in this church. Let's go. Call to worship. Happy are those who walk in God's ways.
Blessed are those who observe God's commandments.
Faithful are those whose eyes are fixed on righteousness.
Joyful are those whose hearts are filled with praise.
Come and let us love the Lord our God.
We come to worship one who leads us in the ways of life.
Invocation. Holy Spirit, guide us as we walk in faith and guard us against the powers that would draw us away from your love. Help us live according to your commandments, that we might live long into the land you have prepared for us. Amen. Now, Phyllis is going to be doing something with you right now. So what I'm going to ask you to do is probably go ahead and sit down. And I'm going to put up a different slide, and let's listen to our friend Phyllis.
Well, I wanted to talk about the hymnals today, I guess, before you sing this song. I've got them down here. I joined the church in 1968, and we had these black hymnals that were put out by the Congregational Church. And they got rather worn, and we needed some newer hymnals. And the Mitchell family, that was very active in our church and in the community, they owned the grocery store that is now that big office building, therapy building on the corner down there. And their son died in the Vietnam War. He was a pilot, and the plane was bombed and crashed, and I don't know if they ever did recover anything from him, but they donated these, excuse me, they donated these red hymnals that say a Gilbert Mitchell memorial. And then those became outdated and worn, and we got the hymnals that you presently have. And people donated those, and they would dedicate them in honor or in memory of somebody. And I would like you to open the front cover of your hymnal and see if you have a dedication certificate. And if you do, would you call out what it says?
Phyllis Belcher.
That's planted.
Naomi Haggerty. Naomi Haggerty.
I couldn't hear you.
Naomi Haggerty.
Naomi Haggerty.
Yeah.
That's Bertha Beal.
Catherine Luton.
Harold and Ruth Rouse.
Oh, yes.
Wayne Thompson.
Esther Burdine. Jackie Clemens.
Jackie Clemens. I heard Reverend Burdine.
Gilbert Lewis Mitchell.
Oh, good. Any more?
Harry and Doris Holcraft.
The whole class.
John
And
and Millie
Wayne
Stan.
and Art Wallace.
Art Wallace. Did any more?
Are you asking for who is dedicated to, or
Yes.
in memory of, or who?
Well, I'd like the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Dedicated and loving memory of Louise Brown.
I don't remember all these people, but some of them, the members chose someone outside of the church, whoever they wanted to remember. I mean, it was a wonderful way that we got the hymnals. What's yours, Mary Ann?
Martha Clark in loving memory of Hugh Clark.
That was her. That was her husband.
Presented Irene and James Hollowitz. I think that's
Howitz.
Oh, yes, Irene
In
Howitz.
memory of William J. Francis L. Hollowitz.
Yeah.
Adam Hannah and Seber, I don't know who I am.
Oh, very good. If you didn't get one that was dedicated, it meant that either someone didn't do the sign inside, or the church had to buy some because we didn't get enough donations. But thank you for remembering the people that loved our church enough that they did these things, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So now you may sing heartily on that number. What is it? I don't know.
25.
Page 25.
Our, oh God, our help in ages past. I love how something that becomes every day to us, right? We get accustomed to using our hymnals. we get accustomed to every Sunday. And yet secreted inside, there are some echoes from the past. So today, we're going to do our prayers of the people. We're going to end with Lord, hear our prayer. And please feel free to tell me anything you would like. Others are listening, but go ahead. A prayer for the people? Yes.
I just want to pray for my nephew, Chris Lapham, and his son and daughter, Gage and Logan. They lost their mom March 11th from pancreatic cancer. She was 45. We just went to her memorial on Tuesday. I got to see Gibby there. Over 1,000 people showed up. She's the co-founder of recovery programs, youth pastor programs. They had a great flooded youth pastor come open in their home. So he was there. I just want prayers for the family because they're having a really hard time. The kids are 7 and 9.
Wow. Lord,
Lord,
hear our prayer. Anyone else? Yes.
On Tuesday night, a tragedy occurred in Tehachapi. And it's a tragedy not only because 4 children are involved, but because this family was full of public servants. And the county of Kern is already a county that tends to not trust government. And this is one more reason that people will find not to trust our public servants in whom we've entrusted our government.
It's a terrible, terrible
tragedy.
And to think if 4 more years or 5 more years went on after it was reported and it was uninvestigated, you can see why people get so frustrated with bureaucrocy. You really can see.
This was something that just occurred this week. So it's another tragedy from the 1 year.
Oh my goodness. Oh, then let's go back to your words. Lord, hear our prayers. Anyone else? Yes, sir?
Yes, I had a call from Pastor Casey from UCC Church up in Lewis, California, which is Northern California, just north of Roseville. And I was a member of that church. I still am. But they had a massive tragedy of vandalism and hate crimes at the church that destroyed numerous things within the church as well as harmed some of our people. So we need prayers for them and support.
Absolutely.
It was really sad situation.
I'm so very sorry. Lord,
Lord,
hear our prayers. Yes, Patrick.
Well, I hate that I'm asked for these prayers every week, but we still have ongoing conflicts in the Middle East and other places around the world, and it's affecting millions, and so all I can do is keep praying for peace.
Absolutely. Lord, hear our prayers. Anyone else? Yes.
I want prayers for my 3 sons and their health.
Prayers for her 3 sons and their health. Lord, hear our prayers. Anyone else? Yes, Molly.
I'm not sure what's up with Ellen. Ellen Hayes, I've tried to get in touch with her and I haven't. Been able to, she hasn't called me back, so I'm a little concerned.
All right. Prayers for Ellen and hoping that she is fine and just needs, what did you say?
Todd was just talking to her on the phone when I left.
Ah, okay. Leave it to Todd, right? I would say that. I guess you caught her at times when she couldn't get to the phone, and Todd got her when he could. So good. Lord, hear her. You still need to pray for her.
Yeah, she's
Lord,
got
hear
some
her.
conflicts and troubles that she's dealing with.
Okay. Anyone else? All right.
Well, I have,
Oh, yes.
we forgot to ask for the positive ones first, I think.
Oh.
So I just.
Let's end with them.
So I
Yeah,
just-
let's end with them.
So I just wanted to give a prayer for the beautiful spring weather and the ability for people to get out in their gardens and enjoy nature.
Yay.
All right. Lord, hear our prayer. Yes.
Well, this is positive.
Okay.
My eyes are still here, and they see better than they've ever done before. Like I was told, and I am grateful.
We are too. Lord, hear our prayer. Yes, Dick.
I'd just like to have prayers for my grandson who was married yesterday in Tennessee, so I didn't go.
Oh, congratulations. We also had a relative married yesterday in Tennessee as well. But I don't think they married anyone in your family. Anyone else? Yes, I'll come back, Patrick.
I just want to make sure everyone got a bulletin because some people came in after I sat down.
Did everyone get a bulletin? If not, are you please share with someone? They're
Well,
gone.
They're in the back on the desk.
Oh, they're in the back on the
Does
desk?
everyone have one?
Patrick, do you have one?
Yes.
All right, yeah, they're on the desk if anybody else wants one. Patrick, go ahead.
Well, I have two positive things to,
Little did I know we were in this positive and negative thing. Go ahead.
to celebrate. I won't be here next Sunday. I will be flying to
That's a
Washington.
negative, Patrick.
From my viewpoint, it's positive. I will be flying to Washington DC next Sunday. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I will be gone. And if I were here, we would be celebrating with my wife. We're about to have our 48th anniversary,
Oh, congratulations.
and that's worth celebrating.
It sure is.
I also, don't take this wrong, everybody. I'm celebrating that as of next Sunday's meeting, I am no longer moderator or chairman. And that's worth celebrating.
We're still searching for a title in the bylaws for you. However, thank you. We are so thankful for everything you have given along the way, and we know your time is not over. Anyone else? All right, we have a sung response to the prayers of the people. Huh? Hallelujah that we're done. Let's try. In your worship bulletin, I'm going to be doing the scripture, and then we are going to hear from Phyllis, the anniversary of our church. So, our first part is the scripture. For we are God's servants, working together. You are God's field, God's building. According to the grace of God given to me, like a skilled master builder, I laid a foundation, and someone else is building on it. Each builder must choose with care how to build on it. For no one can lay any foundation other than the one that has been laid. That foundation is Jesus Christ. Now, if anyone builds on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw, the work of each builder will become visible, for the day will disclose it, because it will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test what sort of work each has done. And with that in mind, I'm introducing our wonderful Phyllis Belcher again to cover the anniversary of our church. What I would like to say at the outset is Phyllis has spent a tremendous amount of time researching and preparing this presentation. If by any chance there's an error in the pictures, in what you're about to see, please take the mistake as mine, okay? It certainly wasn't Phyllis's. So with no further ado, let's welcome Phyllis Belcher.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak about the history of our church today. This may seem more like a history lecture, but I hope to convey the message that we must continue to love and support this church like those before us did. We can work and pray together and see that Tehachapi Community Congregational Church doesn't just survive, but that it will thrive thrive well into the future, serving the needs of this church and the needs of the community. April is an anniversary month for this church because April 1928 is the date on the cornerstone. And if you haven't noticed, the cornerstone is just outside on the wall. It's interesting to look at. However, the development of our church is much more complicated than just that cornerstone in 1928. We actually have 2 anniversaries because this church started in 1920 and the sanctuary was built in 1928. I want us to go back to 1920. Woodrow Wilson was president. I don't think there's anybody here that remembers Woodrow Wilson being their president, is there? The city of Tehachapi had wooden sidewalks. They didn't get cement sidewalks until 1927. There were just 2 churches in town. I'm not sure how many there are now, maybe about 40. There are lots of churches that started up, but we're talking about 1920. 2 churches, the Methodist Church and St. Malachi, the Catholic Church. The Methodist Church was located at the corner of Green and D, right down that way. And I'm not sure just which corner it is. Maybe someday I can find out. I'm not sure that's too important. The Methodist Church was there, and the Catholic Church was over where the Sierra Bank is now. At first it was just that wooden building, but that was removed and they built that lovely brick building. But then Sierra Bank bought that building and turned the church into a bank, and St. Malachi, then they located on the corner of what something?
Mill and E.
Mill and E. It's in my notes, but I couldn't see it. They had a simple wooden building at first, but now they have their own lovely cathedral. In 1920, a number of people who had been attending the original Methodist Church, they petitioned the Congregational Conference to establish a church in Tehachapi. Now, I'm not sure what happened with that Methodist church, but they were in the midst of dissolving, and so this group of people got the congregation was to accept them into that denomination. With an inter-church agreement, the Methodists agreed to give way to the Congregational Church, and in March of 1920, the Congregational Conference of Southern California loaned this new group $500. Calling themselves Tehachapi Community Congregational Church, they purchased that old Methodist church and 7 city lots that the church also owned. The old building was sold and torn down and removed. And then whoever bought that, they took the wood from that original church and they built that little house that's two houses down from us. Maybe you've seen it. It's way in the back, just a tiny little thing, and made by the wood from that old church. And I think I need to tell the museum that. I don't think they have that information. The reason we know that is because Phil Marks, who is the son of the Marks Park that was named after, it was named after his father. And Phil Marks was a member of our church, and he had been here for a long time. And so he knew that that house had been built with the wood from the Methodist church. The Reverend LaRue Watson was called by the community church members in September of 1920. In addition to the use of a parsonage, the pastor was paid $50 a month. At a November meeting of the congregation, bylaws were adopted and purchasing a new church site was discussed. In the spring of 1921, the 7 lots purchased earlier were sold for $300. Lots 1, 2, and 3 on the corner of Green and E Street, that's us right here, they were purchased for a future church site. Meanwhile, church services were conducted in the grammar school auditorium. And that was the grammar school at that time. And it was where the district office is now, where Wells School was. Meanwhile, the church services were conducted in the basement there, in the auditorium. It was moved in 1935 to make room for the present school, Wells School, which is now the district office. Reverend Watson resigned in January 1922 because of poor health, and various pastors served until 1927, when Reverend J.T. Monckton accepted a call to the church. He immediately began a vigorous campaign to build a church. Well, the Depression was in full swing, and many people felt that it was certainly not the time to build a church. But Reverend Monckton pushed ahead with his plans, and because of his faith and efforts, a loan was secured from the Congregational Building Society. A loan from the bank, the local bank, the one that Bill Marks was responsible for. They got a loan for $4,100, and it supplied the money for the present sanctuary. The work was completed, and the new sanctuary was dedicated in April 1928. That's one of the reasons we're celebrating today. Most of the labor and materials were donated, with the cement coming from the local Monolith cement plant.
Wow.
Still, there were loans to pay off. And because of the Depression, pledges supporting the building program became difficult to collect. The folks just didn't have the money. So to remedy this problem, in 1930, it was decided to sell the south portion of the church site, right over there. We used to go all the way to the alley. The library was not there. That was our property. But they sold it to the county for building a library. The library was there until the museum moved in 1973. And last year they were celebrating their 40th anniversary. A house on Curry Street had been rented for a parsonage, but in September 1935, plans were made for a permanent parsonage to be built on the church property just south of the sanctuary. That's right next door. That's where Jan Roberts lives now. Can you imagine being a pastor and living that close to your church? I don't know if pastors would choose that today. In fact, pastors today don't want a parsonage because it's not financially advantageous for them. If they stay a long time, they miss out on the increase in the property value, and there are other ways that they can benefit without the parsonage. There was a 20-year period when we did have a parsonage from 1968 to 1988. In that time, there was that parsonage was sold, and we no longer have a parsonage. In 1957, the Congregational Church merged with 3 other denominations, and they then took the name United Church of Christ. Our church, however, did not change their name. We kept the name up till this day, Tehachapi Community Congregational Church, and we added United Church of Christ. Now, next Sunday, we're going to have a bylaw change, and we are going to drop, if everybody votes, and I assume they will, we're going to drop congregational and just be Tehachapi Community Church, United Church of Christ, TCC, UCC. This church saw many pastors come and go until 1967. They issued a call, and this is what they wrote. Since affiliation with the UCC, we've had some good, strong, useful years and some bad ones. We are an odd group, living here and loving it, but many of us still have strong financial, family, and friendly ties elsewhere. Most of us are past the youth age. Things haven't changed very much. We hope for a caller on the sick, the shut-ins, the oldsters, and slipper-awayers. We want someone who can incorporate some of the old, well-loved hymns with the modern approach to worship. That type of person. Now, Reverend Louis Wakeman fit that description, and he was hired in 1968. He remained pastor until 1988. It was during his time that the Christian Education Building was completed in 1971. Before we had the Christian Ed office building over there, there was a little old house, and it was the Sunday school. And my daughter went to Sunday school on that little old house, and maybe Carlin did too.
Yeah, down in the basement too.
The office, before that building came in, the office was right below us. You know, those steps that go down from the street, they went down to the office. And I think it's just a storage room now, but that was originally the office for the church. The Friendship Hall was built in 1957. And before that, the basement was used for meetings and potlucks and other school social events. In 1938, the basement was rented by the school district because their buildings were overcrowded and classes were held in the church basement. I think that would be very interesting to go to school in the church basement here. As the church celebrates its 96th and 104th anniversaries, it's a remarkable feat considering all that the church has endured. The Depression, World War II, the 1952 earthquake, societal change and upheaval, the COVID epidemic, and still the church has endured. The reason it has endured is because of the people who have given of their time, talent, love, and service. I want to read a poem written by my aunt, Mary Hinkle, that I think describes our church. Our church was not built of wood or stone, nor built by one or two people alone, but by every member doing his part with his head and with his heart. They built on a foundation sure and strong, and a faith in God as they moved along. They gave their prayers and they gave their time. They gave their talents, their dollars and dimes. Hundreds have served from then until now and left their mark on this church somehow. Mistakes were made and we're making them still, but with God's help, we shall fulfill the vows that each one of us made when our own personal foundation was laid. Honor to those souls, their voices now dumb, with hope and vision of things to come. Thanks to those who have served or serve still. In years to come, our places will fill with others who will take the flame and carry it on in the Master's name. And thanks to you out in the world today who have served this church in any way, by saying a prayer or shedding a tear, by singing a song or just being here. Thanks and honor to the helper who came to stay and guide us every step of the way. As long as our faith in God is sure, his church shall forever endure. Amen. Now, you might think I'm through, but I'm really not. I just wanted to have a little break and catch my breath and have a drink of water, and you sing a song, and then I want to continue. So don't leave yet.
So, God of Change and Glory, on page 177.
the reason our church has endured is because of the people who have given up their time, their talent, and their service. I want to look at this picture. We put it up several times because we think it's so beautiful, Nancy and I. She's my audio-visual consultant. I don't know when this picture was taken. I'm guessing maybe in the 50s. Our church was built in 28, so how long did it take those trees to grow that tall? But isn't it a beautiful church, and those trees all around, and you can see the parsonage next door. That's your house, Jan. Pretty soon, maybe your trees will grow that tall. There are a lot of memorials around this church, and it was so interesting walking around and seeing ones that I had forgotten or never knew about, or I don't know, they're just there. And I think you'll be surprised. In fact, I surprised Jan. She told me she knew everything in this, where everything in this church was. Jan Roberts, that is. And I found some plaques that she was really surprised about. That I will show them to you on the screen. The first memorial I want to talk about is the stair lift. When the church was built in 1928, people either stayed home when they were handicapped, or they didn't live long enough to get handicapped. So they didn't think about having to come up all those stairs to get into the church. But soon, people were having difficulty. And so one of the remedies was to put in that stair lift. They talked about a ramp, but they figured if they put a ramp for the front steps, it would have to go all the way to Friendship Hall to make the grade. So the stair lift was the answer, and there was a couple, Bart and I know her name.
Dorothy Stewart.
No, that wasn't his wife. She taught some piano lessons. I forgot it. I put notes on it, but I left my notes, I guess. Here it is. Juanita, Bart and Juanita. Do you remember her? Anyway, when Bart died, I don't know who paid for it, the church or different people. And then Dorothy Stewart, who was an active member of our church, and she was the librarian at the new library next door. But that stair lift was purchased with memorial funds in honor or in memory of them. And then there was an organ. And when I joined this church in 1968, Dolly First was the organist, and she moved away, and they needed someone to play. And Chip Gamble was our choir director. And we had a nice choir, probably a dozen people, and Chip directed every week, but they didn't have an organist. And Chip found out that I played the piano, so he told me that I could learn to play the organ. Actually, it doesn't quite work that way. And it wasn't this organ. It was much simpler than this organ.
And it was down there.
Yes, it was down there because this was the choir loft. And the choir filled up that whole section. But I took lessons from Catherine Earhart, and I learned to do it, and I played the organ for 10 years. When Catherine, she became the next organist, and she had this organ in her home, and she wanted a new organ. So Diane Berard bought Catherine's organ and put it in the church here, and Catherine got her new organ. And now the organ is sort of out of fashion. people don't play the organ. I don't know who's going to play it anymore, and I think it's taking up a lot of room, and we're thinking what we might do with it. Find a new home, that's what Carlin says. So if you know anybody who's interested in an organ, I think they could make an offer. The piano. The piano was one of the projects of the high school youth in the mid-1970s. They raised money so that the piano could be purchased. And the kids, well, in our high school, a group, my husband was Thurn Belcher, and he and I were directors of the youth, or sponsors. What's the name of someone that does that? Crazy? The kids shelled walnuts, which we bought in Thurm's hometown of Empire, California. They cracked those nuts. Sunday night we'd have a little get together, and we'd have a little bit of worship, and then we did it in our house. And we'd sit around cracking those nuts, and then they put them in packages, and they sold them to people in the congregation and in the community. They also went around door to door and asked for Coke bottles, because you could trade those Coke bottles for 2 cents in the 1970s. So that was a very popular fundraiser in Tehachapi. Kids would go door to door asking for your Coke bottles, and eventually the group got enough, and they purchased that organ. That piano, excuse me. And we are so happy to have Carlin playing that piano now. And you know, Carlin grew up in this church, and her mother, what's your mother's name?
Sally.
Sally Earhart has been attending this church for a long time. In fact, she told me she remembered coming here. She wasn't going to the church, but she came here when she was about 4 years old for something. So if you want to know anything, ask Sally.
That's true.
To see what one's next. Oh, the Clavinova. Beth Schertz and her husband Bill belonged to this church before their daughter Julie Bullock moved to Tehachapi. And I heard Julie just a little bit ago saying she'd been here for only 24 years, so she was sort of new. Beth loved music, and she loved this church, and she bought the Clavinova as a gift to this congregation and as a memorial to her husband. I asked Julie about that donation, and she told me how it happened and how they looked, and she even told me how the Clavinova worked and all about it. I didn't expect quite such a long explanation, but it was very interesting.
You still haven't sat down and played it.
And she promised that I could learn to play it. Right now, there are 3 small plaques on the back wall of the sanctuary. Did you ever notice them? You can turn around and look if you want. One of them, and it's the farthest one on that side. I don't know how it shows there, but it's on that side, and it was in memory of Lynn Burkett. She worked at the prison, and she was killed in a car accident on 202 as she was coming home from work. She was a single parent, and she had a young son. I think he was, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old, maybe not quite that old. And there was a family in our church that adopted that boy, took him into their home, and they have since moved. But I was so impressed with some family in our church that was so loving and giving, and they took this child. The the father was, I don't know, unknown, or is a long story. That old television, remember that old television we used to have? That was in Lynn's home, and her parents gave that television to our church. We don't use it anymore. It's rather outdated. I don't know what you did with it, Joanne, but we don't need it. Then there's another plaque that is from the Seventh-day Adventist. And there was a period where the Seventh-day Adventist used our church on Saturday. And so there's a plaque that expresses their love and appreciation to our congregation for sharing our house of worship with them. There's not a date on that plaque, but I think it was about in the 80s. And then the final one is rather small, and it is about the banners in the back. And it said that Rick Kuykendall, who was our pastor in 88, 89, and he designed the banners, and Walt Berard made the poles and the things that hold it up. And then there's a list of the people that sewed the banners. And that's something that Jan Roberts didn't even know about. She hadn't paid any attention to that. Then there's the parking lot. When my husband, Thurman Belcher, died, I and other people made donations to have the parking lot repaved, because that seemed to be the type of thing that would appeal to Thurman. Of course, that was 19 years ago, and the parking lot could benefit by an upgrade, but please don't anybody die so that we can. There's a bench outside in our patio, and that bench, are we on the bench? Yes. Is in memory of Paul Combs. And Paul was a very important member of our church. He was moderator in 2000, 2001, the early 2000s, and it was a very stressful time in our church. And Paul got shingles during that time, and Jan is convinced it was because of the turmoil in the church. That's another whole story. But, you know, it can take one or two people to really stir things up and spoil things. And that's what happened in the early 2000s. And Paul made good decisions and helped us through that time and helped us survive. And Paul died in 2012, and Jan and his family put that bench out there. And I have seen many people use that bench, and the most frequent one is Dick Kavanaugh. I have seen others use that bench during the week. It's a nice resting place. And speaking of benches, I discovered just this week when I was looking around that I don't know when this bench it's a city bench, and there's a plaque on it that was put there and paid for by Beverly Billingsley, who's the veterinarian she lives out in Sand Canyon, and she comes to our church occasionally, and she dedicated that bench in memory of her father, Wade Parkman. And I do remember Mrs. Parkman. She came regularly to our church, but I don't know that it went through our church. I don't remember that, but anyway, we've got that out there. And then there's another bench right out on the street, and the Democratic Club put it up in memory of Thurm because he started the Democratic Club.
Oh.
Okay, then, let's see, the next one is the well. And that was a memorial, and it's not quite finished yet, so this is just the first part. It was a memorial to Addison Trillo. He was the very young son of Eric and Amy Trillo. He was the grandson of Anita Pritchard. He was only 2 years and 20 months old when he died. And so a tree was planted in that well, but it couldn't survive. And Jan Roberts, who's the garden expert, told me that they planted the tree down pretty far in the well, and the soil was so hard down low that the roots could not penetrate and the tree died. And so they removed the tree and they planted what she told me was Vanderwolf pine. And it's in the patio garden. And she pointed out that it's a very soft pine and much more appropriate for memory of a child. So that was for Addison Trillo. Now, in the early days, the church that had all those trees, in the early days we had big trees out here in the patio. And it was nice, but then they got some sort of disease and they died and they had to be taken out, and so people thought, well, let's plant roses. And we have plaques around with names of people that planted roses or paves of roses, and they were usually in memory or in honor of someone. I remember buying one in honor of my grandchild. Sally and I share a grandchild, and her name is Shannon, and I think she was about 3 or 4 years old, maybe 3. And so one of the rose bushes was in honor of our grandchild Shannon Weevil. The current garden, do we have that picture? Yes.
This is the peace garden.
Yes. No, that's a peace garden. Okay, that's fine.
I think that's my error. Right, this picture on the right-hand side is from our current garden.
Okay. The current garden was planned by Ernie Lopez, and he was a master gardener and a friend of Dick and Esther Burdines, and they were also responsible for the peace garden, which is the next slide. Jan Roberts and others have spent hours through the years in maintaining these gardens, but gardening becomes more difficult as one ages, and we haven't attracted younger members who enjoy gardening. We have the peace garden, and Esther Burdine, I guess I haven't talked much about Esther and Dick Burdine. Dick Burdine served as our pastor, a couple years and as interim, and he'd fill in when we didn't have one. And Esther was so wonderful with the Sunday school and did so much. And she had the idea of having a peace pole. And the pole has writing on about different, I don't know what it says, it's in different languages.
It says peace.
Oh,
A little bit more than that.
I think it was the first peace pole in Tehachapi. And we used to have little ceremonies around it every once in a while, remembering something or celebrating something. There have been a couple other organizations lately that have done peace poles, but ours was the first peace pole in Tehachapi as far as I'm concerned. And now the memory tree. The memorials in the Christian Ed, that's right. There are several plaques in the Christian Ed. If you go in that building, you can look on the wall and see. And one of them, I think, is for the chimes that, I'm going to say the name. I used to remember names much better than I do these days. Burton, Joyce Burton. Joyce Burton bought chimes, handbells. What are they called?
They're chimes. They're hand chimes.
Hand chimes. And we had what we call the bell choir. And they did a nice job. They were just getting going, and then I think COVID came, and COVID was pretty much a wrecker of a lot of things. And Carlin and Julie were sort of mainstays of that group, and now they're busy doing other things, so we haven't gotten the bell choir going again, but those were a gift from Joyce Burton. I didn't finish talking about that other slide there. People that donated roses, those are names there. There are other donations. We couldn't have survived without all the people that donated things. Right now I'm ready for the memory tree. This is on a wall in the Christian Ed building, and I'm not sure we've kept it up like we once did. Earlier, we were really conscientious about whenever a member of our congregation died, we put up a leaf on the tree and had a little time of memory. I don't know whether we've just been overwhelmed with members dying or we've forgotten that this is one way to remember our loved ones. But it's a trip down memory lane to read the names that are on the memory tree. This church has been such a blessing to me. The congregation has always been loving and supportive. The various pastors have been wise and instructive. I thank each and every one of you and hope this church can become as meaningful and important to you as it has been for me. I want you to hear a song now that was written by Joanne Wolf. She and her family belong to this church. They live just a couple blocks down, and they walk to church every Sunday, and they were so active. I think her husband was also served as moderator, but then they moved out to, I don't know, Far or Golden Hills or Bear Valley or somewhere out in the hills, and then they didn't come anymore. But maybe you remember her. There she is singing this song that she wrote about our church, and Cheryl's going to sing it for us now.
Before I sing this, I want you to know that I had never heard this song, so it was completely new to me, and there was no accompaniment for the piano. So Carlin and I were trying to figure out what we were going to do when we finally decided that I would just sing it. It's just my own rendition, okay? I've changed it a little, so if it's not exactly the same, please don't be offended if you know the song, okay? There's a place at the base of the Sierras in a little mountain town they call Tehachapi, and there's a church where we ring the bell on Sundays, downtown on the corner of Green and E. We lift our voices, singing songs of praise, praying are far behind, but we believe if we keep our faith together, we can weather it however far we have to climb. We lift our voices, singing songs of praise, praying for some justice in our world today. We lift our voices as the train rolls by. We're worshiping with open hearts and minds. We lift our voices, singing songs of praise, praying for some justice in our world today. We lift our voices as the train rolls by. We're worshiping with open hearts and minds. We lift our voices.
Thank you, Cheryl. There's a potluck after church today, and so please come, whether you brought something or not. There's always enough food to eat. Before, after, and during that gathering, I want you to look at the scrapbooks. They're on tables in the middle of the church, and it's interesting to look and see people that used to be here and how we used to look before we aged a little bit. See the things that we have done in the past. Imagine what we can do in the future. We have survived. Now we need to thrive. Thank you very much.
And our next step, so appropriate, a litany of thanks. Say it with me, please. It is on the back, you know where it is. Tender, loving God, for the vision of those who planned for this congregation and for the commitment and dedication of all who served together at the time of origin.
We give you thanks, Lord.
For those who have served so faithfully in leadership positions throughout the years.
We give you thanks, Lord.
For those who have willingly given of their efforts to teach, encourage, counsel, and sponsor.
We give you thanks, Lord.
For all those who have participated in this fellowship and now serve you in the church triumphant, in that life that has no end.
We give you thanks, Lord.
For the ways in which we have been able to care for one another, support one another on the journey of life, and give strength to one another.
We give you thanks, Lord.
For baptisms we've celebrated, professions of faith we have heard, and answers to prayer that we have experienced.
We give you thanks, Lord.
For a congregation that has always desired to worship you faithfully and vibrantly, hearing your word, singing your praise, and seeking your strength.
We give you thanks, Lord.
For a commitment to remain true to you in a world of confusing and conflicting voices.
We give you thanks, Lord.
For generosity that has enabled us to reach far beyond this community, touching lives in response to your teachings.
We give you thanks, Lord.
For the many children and youth who have been here as they grew in faith and now serve in other places.
We give you thanks, Lord.
And for a free and prospered land that has given us opportunity to thrive and worship and serve for the sake of your kingdom.
We give you thanks, Lord.
Invitation to offering. The God of past, present, and future holds each of us in tender love and care. So we respond to everything God has done and is doing in the life of the world by offering a portion of what we have generously received. Let us gather our gifts together and offer them to God in gratitude and praise. Could we have two ushers, please? Thanks so much. Thanks. Thank you. dedication. Gracious God, we return to you this portion of the bountiful gifts you have given us. Bless these gifts, we pray, that the work begun in this place so long ago may continue to grow, building on that church that lies beyond the bricks and stone. Announcements will be in front of Paul. Thank you so much. Our closing hymn is God of Change and Glories, and it's on page 177. We're only doing the refrain, and the words are there. Accept the people we have been and the baggage we drag behind us. God of the present, accept the people we are now and the potential that lies within us. God of the future, accept the people we could be, and by your Spirit, transform us. As we leave today, going into a future as yet unmapped, may we do so with a renewed vision for building a better world. Have a terrific potluck, and as always, I won't be standing in the back. Please greet one another as you leave, and our postlude is Onward, Christian Soldier. Well done.